Hello, welcome to PlanHub's Masterclass courses for Takeoff and Estimation. My name is Greg. In this video, you'll learn how to use Takeoff and Estimation tools to complete an estimate for HVAC trade. Knowing how to set yourself up for successful takeoffs and estimates will save you time and money so you can bid more projects and grow your company. For a full takeoff and estimate, your first step is to obtain any pertinent details. For this training, I found a project, reviewed the plans, and sent them into the Takeoff tool using the file viewer. Please watch the Takeoff Getting Started videos if you'd like to learn more about this process. First thing we have to do before performing any measurements inside of our takeoff is to set the scale on the page. Here we see the architect has defined the scale as 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. I'm going to move up to my toolbar and click Scale. By default, the scale modal box opens to a standard configuration. Here I can drop down the menu by clicking it one time, scroll up or down to find the scale I need to match the one that's set on the page. In this case, 1/4 inch equals a foot. I found it, so I left click once and then click Set. We now have a compass icon on the name of our page. If you hover above it, it will even show you what the scale is set at. Now that we've set our scale, we're ready to begin taking measurements. To get started, I'm going to go up top and click Segment from the toolbar. I'm going to give this measurement a custom name that identifies what the result is in the side panel later. This is 18 by 16 rectangular duct. After I give it a custom name, I'm going to give it a color that's nice and bright, easy to see on the page. Then I click Set to get started. When I notice I have a crosshair from my cursor after clicking Set, I know it's time to begin measuring. So to measure the length of the 18 by 16 duct in the center of this page, I'm going to choose a starting point and click to drop that first point. Afterwards, as I move my mouse down the page, the measurement follows me without having to do anything at all. Next, I'm going to zoom in using the scroll wheel in between my mouse buttons. When I roll it forward, it scrolls toward the page. When I roll it backwards, it scrolls away. I'm going to line my cursor up where I want to terminate this measurement and left click to drop the final point. Since segments are simply beginnings and ends, it is a left click to start them and a left click to finish them. To zoom out so you can see the entire length of what we measured from the beginning to the end. Over in the right side in the measurements panel, the result is 23.63 linear feet. But we're not finished yet because we have additional sections of 18 by 16 ducts to measure, and we want a cumulative total. So I'm going to measure them in continue mode. As long as the tool remains green, I can continue measuring additional sections. So I line my cursor up with the beginning point of the next section, left click once to drop the initial point, slide my mouse to the end point, center it on the line, and left click again to drop the final point. Now we have two sections for a total of 29.83 linear feet. Still not finished, there's additional sections of 18 by 16 duct to measure. I'm going to zoom in on the additional section to measure, center my cursor over the beginning line, left click, move my cursor to the end, and left click to finish. Now I have three sections of duct measured for a grand total of 36.35 linear feet. If I'm finished with that size and I want to begin a new size, then I can press Enter 2 times on my keyboard to turn that tool off. I also could have clicked the Stop Measuring toggle switch on the name of the result, or I could have clicked Select. Any of the three will turn the tool off. Next, we're going to measure additional sizes. Here I have a 16 by 14. So I'm going to create a segment tool and give it a custom name that reflects that size. Click Segment. Give it a color that I like, and click Set. I'm ready to begin measuring again, so I line my cursor up with the beginning point, the center of the bold line, click to drop the first point, spread that measurement across to the end, and click to drop the final point. Now the second measurement, the 16 by 14 rectangular ducts, I have a total length so far of 13.75 linear feet. Next, we're going to switch over to 16 by 16 duct, following the exact same steps that you've seen me perform before. Click Segment, give it a name, change the color if you like, and then click Set to begin measuring. I zoom in closer. As I pan the document, I'm clicking with my right mouse button, dragging the document to where I want it, and then releasing the right mouse button. The right-click drag function is a very efficient way to pan the page while you're measuring. I click to drop the initial point for this new measurement, extend it out to the finish point, and click to stop. You'll notice the tool stays active every time in between the use of the segment tool. That's so you can quickly move around the page and measure as many sections as you like without having to stop and restart the tool every time between measurements. Now that we have our 16 by 16s measured, I can turn that tool off again, one of three ways. This time I'm going to click the switch on the name of the tool. I see we have additional 18 by 16 duct run to measure. No need to make a new tool for that. I can simply go over to my results panel, find the 18 by 16 rectangular duct entry, and then click the continue measuring toggle switch. That turns the tool back on. I get my crosshairs back so I can line up with the beginning point, click to drop it, extend to the next point that it either transitions or ends, then click to drop the final point. Now I've added additional feet to the measurement that I'd already taken for that size duct. We've not begun a 12 by 16 measurement yet, so I'll go up top and select segment to begin my 12 by 16 measurement. I click Set and then begin measuring. Left click to begin, extend it to the end of the duct run, and then left click to finish. If you find yourself repeatedly using the same sizes of ducts from job to job, from project to project, you can save these pre-configured measurements to your library to make it more efficient to use next time. In this case, I'm going to save the 12 by 16 to my library by right-clicking on it and then Save to Measurement Library. I already have a folder to receive duct measurements, so I'm going to click to place this measurement into my duct measurements folder. If I do not have a folder for duct measurements yet, you can add a folder to receive your measurements by clicking the green folder with a plus sign in the middle. That'll put a new folder at the bottom of your list. You can right-click and choose Rename, delete the text that's there, and type the new name for your folder. I already have one called Duct Measurements. For this example, I'm just simply going to call this Measurements. Now, if I want to put additional measurements into that folder, I can right-click on the results, Save to Measurement Library, and choose what folder I would like them to fall under. For example, Measurements. Now, if I navigate over to my Library tab and scroll down, you can see the new 18 by 16 that I created is in the new Measurements folder. After you save a duct measurement to your library, all you have to do to use it in any project in the future is just simply go directly to your Library tab, locate the measurement within the folder that you would like to use on this particular job or this takeoff. In my case, I'm going to use the 12 by 12. I'm going to right-click on it, then choose Add Measurement. I've already configured the Properties box, so I'm simply going to click Set to get started. Just like the other measurements that I've taken, I'm going to line my cursor with the beginning, click to begin, and then click to finish. Move around the plan and add any additional sections to the measurement result that I already have going by left-clicking to start and then left-clicking to finish. Back in the measurements panel, we see we've got 21.46 linear feet of 12 by 12 duct measured so far. So with a little bit of setup time, if you save your measurements ahead, they're very quick and easy to use straight from your library. They're already configured, so you no need to type every time you use a new tool. Now that I've measured my ductwork, I'm ready to begin measuring diffusers. To begin a count, I go to the toolbar and click the Count tool. Again, give it a custom name, in this case 10-inch 350 CFM diffuser. I can adjust the color now if I like, or leave it as is, and then click Set to get started. I'm going to simply hover my mouse above every occurrence of a 10-inch 350 CFM diffuser and click one time so it places a dot on the page. That shows me that that diffuser has been counted to make sure I don't repeat count any of the objects. Now move around my plan page, again right clicking to drag the document as I go, and place a count dot on every one of the diffusers that meets the qualifications for the one I'm measuring. When I'm ready to start measuring additional sizes of diffusers, I can turn this tool off by pressing twice on my keyboard, or I could have clicked the toggle switch on the name, or again I could have clicked select. Any of the three would have done the same thing. Now I'm going to start a new instance of the count tool so that I can count the 10-inch 300 CFM diffusers. I click count, give this a custom name, and then click set to begin. Exactly the same process is going to apply in this case. I'm going to hover my mouse above the object I would like to count, click one time so the count dot is placed on the object. I'm going to move around the plan page, identifying any of the diffusers that have the same size and CFMs, and drop a count point. We have additional sizes to count. I'm going to pan around the page to see if I'm missing any for the size that I currently have activated, or in case I've missed any for the previous size that I've counted. It looks like I'm ready to move on to an additional size, so I'm going to follow the exact same process you've seen me do before. Press enter twice to terminate the tool, then click count to start a new instance. This one is going to be 10-inch 225 CFM diffuser. I'm going to click and give it a brighter color so it's easier to see after I place the dot, and then click set to begin. Once again, I hover and place a dot on every object that meets the qualifications that I'm currently counting. Next, I continue to add the additional diffuser sizes to the count tools, perform the counts on them, so that I have a good list of the required diffusers for this particular takeoff. When I have all of the lengths of duct that I want to account for in this particular takeoff and the diffusers counted as well, then it's time to move on to transition pieces. The transitions are going to be accounted for in a very similar fashion as the diffusers. We're going to start a count tool, name them the sizes that they need to accommodate, and then we'll count all of the transitions that meet that criteria. So I'm going to launch a count tool by clicking count from the toolbar. Right here in the center of the page, I need to count this transition. It's going to be an 18 by 16 down to a 16 by 16 transition. I'm going to click my count tool and give it a name. Then click set to get started. Hover above the item I want to count and click one time. Next, I'm going to dive right in and measure the 6-inch round ducts. So I click segment at the top, give it a name, then click set to get started. Line my cursor up to drop the initial point, extend the line out to where I need to change direction or terminate in this case, and I click to drop the final point. Next, I'm going to measure this additional length of 6-inch duct, so I click to start my measurement, extend this out. Fortunately, the angles within PlanHub that pivot around the pivot point are set to 22.5 degrees, and it's exactly the angle I needed to take away from the pivot point in this case. So if I needed to follow a different angle, I could hold the space bar and temporarily disable that setting so that my line would move freeform to any angle in between around its pivot point. In this case, I'm not going to have to use that. I'm simply going to extend out and drop the point that I want. For any other round ducts, I would follow the exact same procedure, such as the 10-inch, 12-inch, etc. After I've gotten all my ducts, transitions, and other fittings measured, then it's time to start building our estimate. We can build our estimate directly from the results of our measurements. For instance, if I wanted to simply charge for 18 by 16 rectangular duct, and the amount I wanted to charge for was what I measured at 44.19 linear feet, I can right-click on that result and add it to an estimate. I don't have an estimate created yet for this project, so I'm going to click Create New Estimate, then select Add. I'm going to send over my 16 by 14 duct. Since I've already created a project estimate 1 from the previous result I sent over, all I have to do here is select it so that this will be added to the exact same estimate that was already created. Next, I'm going to select a diffuser or two to send across. The exact same process, right click, add to estimate, select the estimate you want it to go to, and then click add. The first way we can begin to create our estimate is by sending Takeoff results directly in. Now I'm going to click my Project Estimates tab at the top to navigate and see where these results have ended up. We take a look here in the center of our page and we have rectangular duct 18 by 16. The measurement result was obtained using the segment tool. Its source is Takeoff. It's given a material item type by default. The quantity is the result we sent over, which is 44.19. The unit of measure is over a little further, linear feet. We do not have a unit cost associated with it, so our unit cost here is 0, but we can associate a unit cost now by clicking the pencil icon on the right end of this line item. That allows us to edit any of the fields that are available. In this case, for a 18 by 16 rectangular duct, if I wanted to charge $5 per linear foot, then I put 5 in the box and then click Save. After I click Save, it's going to multiply the unit cost that I gave it times the quantity to give us a total for this one line item of $220.95. That total is sent down to the bottom of the page to be a part of the page totals, and also up at the top to be a part of the project totals. The project totals reflect the sum of all the pages of the estimate you have. If we wanted to break this into sections to estimate it, we could add additional pages here by clicking the plus button. We would get an entirely new page. We could even give these names. For instance, I could select the pencil on the name next to Project Estimate 1, get rid of the text that's there, and call this HVAC Estimate. If we were performing other trades, or if we need to break this out into regions of the building, then we could utilize a different page, such as Project Estimate 2. Each one of these estimates has its own subtotal region at the bottom of the page, and all of these subtotals will add up to the project totals area in the upper right hand corner. Next, if we need to add a cost item on the fly, we can use the Add Cost Item button right here up top. I click that one time, and a brand new cost item with 0 fields configured is available now. We can give this a name, so if I want to charge for labor for this particular project, I can choose labor. Next, I can just tab right through the fields. For this, perhaps in the description, this is going to be by the hour, and I want that to reflect somewhere that's easily visible. We don't need a measuring type because this is a manually created cost item. Item type, however, I am going to define as labor. For this example, we're going to say it takes us 100 hours to complete this job. The unit of measure is hours, so I click to open the unit of measure box, then type H on my keyboard and select hours from the list. If I'm charging $45 an hour, I put 45 into my unit cost box. If I don't want to add a tax rate, then I leave the box alone, but if you did, you could type in your tax percentage for the region that you're in. Afterwards, I made all the changes that I want. I click Save. The math is reconciled once again, just as we saw on the rectangular 18 by 16 duct above. The $45 per hour is multiplied times the 100 hours to give us a total of $4,500 for this one line item. That now is reflected at the bottom of the page in our subtotal for this one page of the estimate, as well as the project totals at the top. The two ways we've discussed so far for creating line items within our estimate is to send the result directly from Takeoff into estimation. The second way would be to add a blank cost item on the fly. The third way would be to add a cost item from our cost item library. I navigate to cost items library by clicking the cost item tab at the top. Next, we have a database of over 90,000 items. You can search these items by name and description. If I type in a general term such as duct, I'm going to get a lot of results. In this case, 1,823 results. So I could narrow this down by adding other qualifying words to the search, such as round duct. And that narrowed down our list even further. We only have 23 available items now to choose from. So if I wanted to use any one of these items from my search results in my estimate, I could scroll down, find the one that I want to use, click the green plus button, add it to the estimate, and select the page of the estimate I want it to go to, then click Add. Now we can navigate back to our project estimates. At the bottom you see we have an entry, the PVC round 16-inch diameter ducts that we added from our cost items library. If I wanted to edit this and make it my own personal item to use at any point in the future, I can click the pencil to edit. Let's say I don't want this to be PVC round duct, I want it to be metal round. So I could call this metal instead of PVC. Also give it an item type, address any fields here that I wanted to. Let's say I know that from looking at the plans this is going to take about 25 linear feet. I could give it a unit cost now, $5 per linear foot. Click Save. It's going to reconcile that math. If this is something I want to use in the future repeatedly, then I can save this to my own custom library list by selecting the checkbox and then dropping down the Actions menu. There's a whole list of actions here you could choose to do, such as you could add this to your cost item library, which is exactly what we're going to do. You could create a duplicate of it. You can make adjustments to the financials associated with this one line item. You can remove it or delete it, or if you wanted to leave it on the page but did not want it to reflect into your totals, you could choose Exclude from Totals, and it would leave it as an entry, but you would get a strike through the dollar amount so that it's not adding any contribution to the financials in the project. In this case, I'm going to choose Add to Cost Item Library. To see where that goes so that we can utilize it in the future, I'm going to navigate back to Cost Items Library by clicking the Cost Items tab at the top. Next, I'm going to narrow down this entire list of 90,000+ items by owner by choosing the filter arrow next to the name owner. And then I'm going to select the box My Company and click OK. Now we have all of any cost items that anyone in my company or any one of my teammates within my company has saved to our list. I can search for the one I just added, or I can see it's been added right here to the top, even with my configurations to make it custom, and even adding the unit cost in has saved. Anytime I want to add this item in the future, I navigate to Cost Items Library, filter down by my company, and then choose the green plus button at the side to add it to an estimate. That would be the third way that you can get cost items into your estimate. The final way that we can add a cost item to your estimate would be through the use of assemblies. Since assemblies are groupings of cost items, we can create an assembly to accept a specific measurement result and then define the cost items that will live underneath it. So anytime we use it in the future, we'll only be able to utilize it with that one measurement type, but it will fire off and include all of the nested cost items underneath it at the same time. For our HVAC example today, we're going to be taking the lengths of ductwork that are required, and we want to bill for the strapping material that we'll utilize every 4 feet on the entire length of the duct that we install. So we can build an assembly that will have the line item for the size of duct that we need, and also for the strapping material that's required every 4 feet. To get started, I'm going to navigate over to the Assemblies area by clicking the Assemblies tab at the top. Next, I'm going to click the button Create Assembly. Our assembly creation window is broken up into 2 sections. On the left side of the window is the database of cost items that you're able to add to nest under each assembly. Or we have an Add New Cost Item button that performs exactly the same as the Add New Cost Item button in our estimate. First, I'm going to give this overall assembly a name. This is going to be duct and strap. The measurement type we'll be receiving results from will be the segment tool. This is going to return materials, so I'm going to give this the item type of material at the top. I'll also be qualifying each one of the line items as a material as well. To get started, I'm going to add a new cost item. This will be my length of duct. I'm not going to add a specific size here so that I can keep this very general for the demonstration. For your everyday use, you would want to apply this to a specific size of duct so that you can give it a specific cost per linear foot. I'm going to slide across, and in this case I'm going to charge for $5 per linear foot again. I'm going to address any required fields. And then click Save. In this case, I don't want to perform any conversions to this particular line item. I want the result of linear feet to stay as linear feet, and I want them to be a one-to-one relationship. But I do have to add a formula so that the assembly knows if it needs to perform any math or just simply display the result as is. So I'm going to click my formula button of FX on the right side of the entry. In this case, I do want to just take the length as is. I don't want to alter it at all. So I would click length, give this formula a name, and then click Save and apply to cost item. I already have one that meets these needs built, and anytime you build a formula, it stays available for you to use on any potential assemblies in the future. In this case, I'm going to click the Add button, choose not to save what I'd already begun on the left, and then click Apply to cost item. I'm going to add another cost item that will accommodate for the straps. This is going to be called duct strap. Going to address all the required fields. In this case, we're going to charge 50 cents. The unit of measure will be linear feet. I'm going to save the progress thus far and then click Formula button to get started. This formula is going to perform a conversion because every 4 feet I would have charged for a 6-foot long section of duct strap. What I'm going to do is give this a name, duct strap. The description will be amount of strap, the amount of 6-foot long straps per 4 feet of duct. Now that I've given it a name and a description that makes it easily identifiable when I use it in the future, I'm going to click in the formula box to get started. I know I'm going to have to perform a conversion on this, so I'm going to start out with a parenthesis so I can keep them segmented apart, keep them straight as I create the formula. I'm going to take the length of the measurement. I'm going to divide it by 4 feet because I need one strap every 4 feet. I'm going to close my parentheses, and then I'm going to take that result and multiply times 6 because I want 6 feet of strap to be charged for every 4 feet length of ductwork. I can test this formula to see if it's going to give me the desired result. For instance, if I take a 24 feet long duct run and click Run, then I would expect it to divide by 4 to get 6 and then multiply it times the 6 feet, and it does, giving me a result of 36 linear feet. Since it's performing as I expect it to, I'm going to click Save to save this formula and apply it to this cost item. Next, I'm going to click Save Changes, and that will make this assembly available to be used in Takeoff. To utilize this, I'm going to click the name of the project up top that takes us back to our Takeoff page. I'm going to select any of the duct runs that would require strapping. I'm going to right click on it, choose to send to an assembly as opposed to add to estimate this time. Any assembly I have configured that will accept linear measurements from the segment tool will become available here. At the very bottom is the new one I just created, the duct and strap. I select it and I tell it what page of the estimate I would like the result to go to. Then I click Add. A verification box opens up to show you what the length measurement was associated with the measurement you're choosing to send through the assembly. If those measurements are what you want to use, then just simply click Insert. Next, I'm going to go back to Project Estimates, scroll down to the bottom, and here we have our new assembly entry. We know it's from an assembly because it's green and it has an expansion arrow on the right end. If I click that expansion arrow and scroll down, you'll see the 2 results that populated our estimate by using the single assembly. The top one is the length of duct at 44.19 linear feet at $5 per linear foot. And now we have $220.95 associated with that one cost item, just the length of duct. Next, for the duct strap, we've converted it to 6-inch sections that are required every 4 feet. So we're requiring 66.285 linear feet of strapping for this one particular duct run. At 50 cents a foot, it's adding 33.14 for that. Our grand total for the assembly is 254.09, which is now reflected at the bottom of the page in the page totals, as well as the top upper right hand corner where the project totals are. There are several financial adjustments you can make to your estimate. First will be through the use of waste. That's done on the actual line item for the cost item. If I choose to click the pencil to edit the cost item, I can choose to add a percentage waste. For instance, if I know I'm going to lose about 10% of the product due to cuts, etc., then I'll want to add a 10% waste to this line item, and then I'll click Save. When you add a waste and click Save, it's going to increase your quantity by whatever percentage you tell it to. In this case, 10% of 44.19 is 4.419. That's been added in, so our new total quantity is 48.609. Waste is the first way that you can add an increase or reflect a change in the financials on your cost items. The second way would be through the use of Adjust Rates. The Adjust Rates button at the top can perform whole dollar amount increases on item types or pages of the estimate. It can also achieve overhead and profit additions that would be a percentage added on to the same categories. For this first example here, we're going to show how to add an increase rate. I'm making sure that my rate button is selected, and then I'm going to open up Select Estimates so that I can tell it I just want to make changes to my HVAC estimate. Next, only to the materials item types, I'm going to increase by a discrete rate, and let's say I'm going to add a $5 increase to every material cost item in HVAC estimate. When I click Apply, now if we look out a page of our estimate, our Adjust Rates column now has $5 for every material in our estimate. That rate increase has been added in to our unit cost. So for instance, on the first line item, that unit cost was $5 per unit. It has an adjusted rate of an additional $5, so its brand new total unit cost will be $10. That change will be seen on every item that's labeled as a material. The third way you can add money to your estimate would be through overhead and profit. There's two different ways to do this. The first will be through the Adjust Rates button. I'm going to select overhead and profit for the button. Again, just the items on my HVAC estimate. And this time I'm going to increase labor and materials by a discrete percentage. I'm going to increase everything by 25% and click Apply. So now we can see on this first item we have a 10% waste increase that increases our quantity. We also have a $5 rate increase that increases our unit cost. But on top of that, now we have a 25% increase. So our grand total new unit cost is $12.50 for what once was a $5 per unit item. As you can see, these increases are cumulative and stackable. You can have a waste, an adjusted rate, and an overhead and profit on an individual item. When you've completed your estimate, you've added all the cost items to it that you would like, and you need to get this information out, you can export the results of your estimate using the Export button in the upper left-hand corner. I clicked it once, and now I choose what pages I want to include. I'm going to include both, or I could have selected the checkbox at the top to select them all at once. Next, click Export. You'll have to click Download to confirm that you want to open this file, and my browser Google Chrome makes me click one more time. This file is a CSV file, so it would open up in whatever program your computer is set to open spreadsheets. The first page that opens is the summary page. It has the information for the project as a whole. The next tab at the bottom is the one page of our estimate called the HVAC estimate. You can see every line item is accounted for with the totals for this one individual page of the estimate. Next, Project Estimate 2 has its own page, and at the end there's a bill of materials. Every cost item in the estimate will be listed here. If you need to get the information exported from your Takeoff, First, you can print the actual page that your measurements were performed on by clicking the Download PNG button in the upper right hand corner. Or I could have gone to the name of the page on the left hand side, right clicked, and chose Download PNG from there. Either will do the same thing. I still need to confirm the download, and my browser still makes me click one more time. When that drawing opens, you can see we have a perfect printout. You can also export your table of measurements by clicking Project Measurements at the top. Here on this page you see a table listing of every measurement that's been performed on this particular takeoff project. I click Export, click to verify the download, here's a list of every measurement that was taken during this project, including our custom names. So now that you understand how to create takeoff measurements, send them in to create an estimate, and then export the information out later, our hope is that you will move forward and create your own takeoffs and estimates as well. If at any point you need additional help or one-on-one training, I welcome you to use your Account Manager button in the upper right hand corner. Click it once and you'll see your account manager and all of their contact information. Your account managers will be happy to help you however they can, or if you do require one-on-one individual training for your takeoff or estimation solutions, they can assist you scheduling that as well.